Maybe you felt something different when you woke up today. A vague, almost imperceptible feeling, as if the air was denser, or time more malleable. You looked around, and everything seemed the same, but something inside you didn't. A silent whisper, coming from a shapeless place, said, "Pay attention. Yes, you are in a transition. And no, this is not symbolic. It's not just poetry. It's literal, energetic, invisible to the eyes, but visceral to the soul. The moon is moving, shedding its skin, and along with it, everything you thought was resolved begins to stir again. That's why you feel, you perceive, you already know, even without knowing. Every 2 days, the moon changes signs, but today is different. Because today you're not distracted. Today something inside you is more awake. Your sensitivity is more alive, rawer, and that's no coincidence. There's an invisible clock marking the time of your soul, and it doesn't follow Earth's calendar. It pulses to the rhythm of the sky. The change happening now is not just in the astrological chart. It's in the emotional architecture of your unconscious. It's as if an entire layer of your psyche is shifting along with the night star. And if you're feeling nameless unease, loose memories surfacing, or even a longing you can't place, it's because your soul is reading this movement before your mind can understand. You're being called to realign, to look beyond the surface, because this is not just a lunar forecast. It's an emotional portal disguised as an ordinary day. And portals, when they open, don't wait for you. They whisper, they provoke, they test. The question is, will you keep going on autopilot? Or will you listen to what the sky is trying to tell you right now? And if you've made it this far, it's because you're already listening. Have you noticed how certain emotions return uninvited, like shadows dancing behind the curtain of time? This is not random. It's the reflection of the cycle restarting silently within you. The moon, this body that governs the tides, feminine cycles, instinct, and the unconscious, doesn't just move across the sky. It activates portals within our emotional memory. Every time it enters a new sign, it touches forgotten patterns, old files that you may have thought you had already overcome. But they return not as punishment, but as a chance to look with more maturity, with more truth. The lunar change happening now in the next 48 hours is not just a change of scenery. It's stirring deep themes that haven't visited your surface in a long time. And maybe you're feeling this in the form of mental confusion, dense emotions without explanation, or a fatigue that seems never-ending. But what's happening is more subtle. You're being invited to see what's hidden between the lines of your routine. The energy the moon takes on as it changes signs is like a new lens. It colors your perception, lights up specific memories, triggers responses, and activates archetypes you may not be accustomed to. So, don't be surprised if, in the next 2 days, certain old conversations pop up out of nowhere, or if you get the sense of reliving something you've already experienced. This déjà vu isn't a flaw in your mind, it's a message from your soul. It's as if the universe is saying, "Do you remember this? Because it's time to look again." The phases of the moon are not decorative schedules. They are rhythms of purification and revelation. And every sign it visits is a door to a specific emotional aspect, a hidden character inside you that needs to be recognized. So, pay attention. In the next 2 days, notice the themes that repeat, the topics that insist on coming back, the sensations that arise in the silence. They are not distractions. They are messages. Messages written in the ancient language of the sky. Messages that only the attentive can decipher. In the past, before digital calendars, before wristwatches, even before hurry became the norm, there was another type of time being followed. A time that wasn't counted, but felt. The ancients observed the moon as one listens to an oracle. They knew that when it changed phases or signs, it wasn't just the sky transforming, but the invisible field of human consciousness as well. Ignoring these cycles was, to them, like living out of time. They didn't call it astrology, they called it wisdom. It wasn't superstition, it was sensitivity. The moon was the clock of the soul, and every time it changed signs, it was as if a new vibrational code was emitted, requiring a new alignment, a new intention. Today, even with all the advancements, we are still guided by this lunar pulse. Even if we don't realize it, our emotions follow this invisible tide. And when we don't listen, it speaks louder, through the body, sleep, dreams, and even daily conflicts. If you pay attention, you'll see that everything you feel has a rhythm, and that rhythm speaks directly with the sky. That's why today is not just another day of the week. It carries a frequency that won't repeat in the same way. The change happening now is a silent invitation to reorganize your energy, rethink your choices, and realign your steps. You don't need to understand astrology. Just listen to what your own vibration is saying. Think of the next 48 hours as a cosmic pause, an opportunity to listen to what was muffled by the noise of routine, replan, reevaluate, reconnect, not with the world outside, but with the subtle movement happening within you. Because following the rhythm of the moon isn't about being mystical. It's about being sensitive to what is real, even when you can't see it. And maybe, right now, you're already feeling it pulse, as if something inside you is saying, it's time to change pace. And it is. Each sign the moon moves through is like a new garment it chooses to express its emotional wisdom. And when it changes clothes, it's not just trying on a new color or style, it's inviting us to try on a new part of ourselves. It's as if for 2 days, we're called to dance with a new archetype, a new sensation we might have avoided or forgotten. And this dance doesn't happen with planned steps. It happens in the unplanned, in the glance that shifts, in the different choice, in the emotion that arises without warning. Maybe you feel more like being alone, or on the contrary, a sudden urge to connect with someone you haven't seen in a while. Maybe you notice you're more sensitive to sounds, smells, words. All of this is a clue. Small cracks in the surface that reveal the energy has shifted. The sign the moon is assuming right now holds a key, and this key doesn't open external doors, it opens internal drawers. Drawers that hold dormant intentions, neglected truths, versions of you that didn't have space to exist. You don't need to know what the sign is. You don't need to memorize the symbolism. What matters is noticing how you react, what sparks, and what begins to bother you. Because where there's discomfort, there's transformation. And where there's harmony, there's revelation. Today, in the silence of your end of the day, maybe it's worth asking yourself, what emotion dressed me today without me realizing? The answer won't come from your logical mind. It will come as an echo, like a forgotten sigh resurfacing. This is the gift of the moon when changing signs. It reminds us that we are not static, that our emotions have cycles, forms, and languages that go far beyond what we can explain, and that when we listen to it, even without understanding, something aligns and something heals. Sometimes the body warns before the soul understands. You wake up more tense, your thoughts are scattered, other people's words seem harsher than they really are. And everything that was simple starts to get tangled, as if a slight noise interfered with your field. These are the subtle signs of being out of sync with the lunar cycle, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're trying to sustain a frequency that has already changed. The moon has already turned the page, and you're still trying to continue the previous story. It's common, almost inevitable. The world outside doesn't teach us to respect the invisible cycles, but your body feels. And when you feel out of place, late, anxious for no reason, or irritated by small details, maybe it's not the world that's difficult. Maybe it's just your frequency trying to adapt to the new lunar vibration. The sensitivity many consider weakness is, in fact, a spiritual radar. It picks up before the mind can even formulate. It knows when it's time to stop, to silence, to change course. But almost always, we resist. We want to keep the same routine, the same emotions, the same thoughts, even when the sky is already whispering something else. And that's the real friction. It's not with the world, it's with the energetic time we're ignoring. Maybe what's asking for attention right now isn't a big decision. Maybe it's just a small adjustment, a little space of silence, a more conscious breath, a moment of presence before moving on. The moon doesn't require grand rituals, it just asks for listening. And on transition days like today, this listening becomes essential. Because it's there, in the interval between one sign and another, that the deepest revelations whisper, and only those who slow down can hear. There's a silent mistake many make during these energetic transitions, and it's not in what they do, but in what they insist on keeping. When the moon changes, it alters the current. It's like the emotional tide shifts direction. But instead of adjusting the sails, we often try to row against the new flow, trying to maintain the same emotional tone, the same internal disposition, the same fragile certainties that were already asking to be revised. This resistance to vibrational change doesn't seem big at first. It disguises itself as commitment, self-control, even willpower. But inside, it generates friction, it confuses, it stagnates. And at some point, that friction shows up in the tired body, the anxious mind, the conversations that end in uncomfortable silence. There's something profound in this type of discomfort. It doesn't come to punish, but to signal. It says, "You're no longer in the same place. Why do you insist on behaving the way you did before?" The new energy asks for another look, another listening. It asks that you allow yourself to feel strange, allow yourself to not know, allow yourself to feel different without immediately trying to go back to what it was. Wisdom isn't in maintaining control, it's in noticing when it's time to surrender to the update. Like the moon, which doesn't resist its cycle, it simply changes shape, changes tone, changes presence. And maybe in these days, what's being asked of you isn't a decision. It's a posture. The posture of someone who recognizes that the soul has seasons too, and that resisting the new vibration is often what prevents the blooming that's already trying to happen. There's an almost invisible point in every lunar transit, a point that touches not only the collective, but something extremely intimate and individual, your natal lunar house. Even if you've never looked at your birth chart, this influence exists. Because the sky doesn't just happen up there. It reverberates in specific areas of your life, those that suddenly seem more sensitive, more chaotic, or more alive. The house the moon activates in your chart is like a room where the lights suddenly turn on, and everything in there starts to pulse stronger. The issues in that area of life become more urgent, the emotions more evident, the calling clearer. You may notice this without knowing why. On the days the moon transits through this part of your inner sky, you'll feel like something has been asking for your attention for a long time, and now it simply can't be ignored anymore. Maybe it's discomfort at work, maybe a shift within the family, maybe restlessness in love, or an existential emptiness that's always been there, but now refuses to be silenced. There is no randomness in these points of tension. Where there is friction, there is a calling. And where there is a calling, there is a path. The moon touches where we need to see, and that seeing isn't always comfortable, but it's always liberating. You might not understand the chart, but your soul understands the movement. It feels when something is already old, when a part of you is asking for renewal, when destiny begins to move from within. So if something in your life feels more sensitive right now, more delicate, or more unstable, look at it with different eyes, not as a problem, but as a mirror of your own evolution being invited to happen. It's curious how, in the moments when energy intensifies the most, our instinct is to act, to fix, to produce, to control, as if the inner agitation were a sign of external urgency. But what if it's not? What if this vibrational peak is actually an invitation to withdraw? There is a subtle paradox in the way the moon operates. When it changes signs, something lights up. Yes, but what lights up isn't always a call to action. Sometimes it's exactly the opposite. It's as if she's saying, now be still, feel, let it come. This withdrawal is not isolation. It's silent presence. It's knowing that there is a dance happening inside you, and rushing outside now would waste the sacred rhythm that is beginning to form. When energy rises, the soul asks for space. It asks for silence, depth, fertile darkness. Because a sign change isn't just a transition, it's a rebirth. And no rebirth happens without retreat. Maybe at this very moment, you're feeling the urge to step back, to take a deep breath, to not explain anything to anyone. That's not avoidance, it's preparation. The new skin that the moon brings needs time to be felt, and that's only possible when you stop trying to understand it with the mind. Allow yourself a small ritual, not for the formality of it, but for the presence it invites. Something simple, quiet, a moment just for you. Because what's being born now doesn't need to be explained. It only needs to be acknowledged. And when you allow yourself that space, something happens. A truth emerges, your truth, the one that doesn't come from outside or from any chart, but from your most intimate center, which only awakens when you dare to pause. There are nights when sleep doesn't come easily, and when it does, it's broken, filled with strange images, unlikely encounters, symbols that keep repeating. You wake up with the feeling that you dreamed too much, or perhaps with the certainty that it wasn't just a dream. When the moon changes signs, it doesn't just stir emotions. It also affects the space where the unconscious expresses itself more freely. Dreams. It's as if the veil between worlds becomes thinner, allowing information from the subtle realm to slip into your rest. These dreams, sometimes symbolic, sometimes disconnected, are codes, not in a literal sense, but in a sensitive one. They don't come to be deciphered like riddles. They come to provoke sensations, recall forgotten things, make you feel something your waking self might not access. The unconscious speaks its own language, an ancient language made of metaphors, repetitions, archetypal images. And when the moon dons a new sign, it also changes the dialect of that invisible language. You might dream of water, mirrors, doors, people who are gone, and all of it has meaning. Even if the rational mind doesn't understand, the soul does. In that subtle space between sleep and waking, many answers come, not as ready-made sentences, but as feelings, as silent certainties, as omens that don't need logic to make sense. The sky moves, and your soul responds. Not because someone said it would, but because it's always been this way. The ancients knew, the wise still know, and you feel it too, even if you're still learning to trust that feeling. During times of lunar transition, the invisible draws near, and if you pay close attention, your dreams become soft prophecies, not about the future, but about what is ready to be born inside you. Nothing will be as it was. And as unsettling as that may sound, it's a disguised gift. Every 48 hours, when the moon takes on a new outfit, you receive a new chance to reposition yourself, a new frequency to tune into, a new skin to inhabit. But we don't always notice. In the rush of the days, we ignore the subtle invitations of existence. And that's why these reminders come back, because life wants you to remember what's at stake. Your presence, your listening, your truth. If you've made it this far, it's because something in you is already awake enough to no longer accept living on autopilot. You already feel that a greater rhythm is guiding everything. You recognize when the sky moves, and something inside you moves with it. It may seem small, but it's not. The attention you give now to your emotions, to your intuition, to the signs around you, all of it reshapes your path. And if you doubt that, just remember how the last few days felt. How some words felt heavier than usual. How certain silences spoke louder. How you, without realizing it, are already different. The moon changes. You change. The world changes. And even if everything around you seems the same, the awareness with which you move through these cycles makes all the difference. Because living awake means this, recognizing that details are portals, that feelings are compasses, that time is not linear, it's sacred. So welcome what comes, let the old go, and don't be surprised if something in you feels clearer, lighter, or even more vulnerable. That's growth, that's truth, that's spirituality in motion. If this resonated with you, it's because it's already part of your path. Stay with us. Share this journey with someone who also feels the veil is thinning. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go deeper in this alignment with the moon's cycles, click the video that's now on your screen. It's the natural continuation of this journey. And you know, when the sky calls, the soul recognizes it.